The colonists were able to get a good position because it was one of the few wooded areas along the Battle Road. The common myth of the fighting on Battle Road is that the colonists hid in the woods and the British were easy targets marching down the road. In reality, the British were not easy marks. They were a formidable enemy. The main column of grenadiers marched down the road, but the light infantry were deployed as flankers, moving out through the fields and keeping the colonists back away from the main British column. You can see today the grenadiers have the tall hats and the infantry have the smaller hats. Here come our militia now, advancing down the hillside. Let me interrupt my narrative of the day's events. We'll leave off on Battle Road and focus on what is happening again here at North Bridge.
Thank you.
The British regulars were on the west side of the bridge. You could call it today the Minuteman statue side. And they were quite far up the hillside. As the colonists grew in number and moved closer, the British regulars moved down closer to the bridge. And that is what you're seeing right now. The British Redcoats had broken into a run as they came into Lexington Center. Luckily for them, relief had finally come. A brigade of 1,000 fresh troops, led by Earl Percy, was waiting. Percy had brought 2 cannon and fired them off, which made the colonists scatter and enabled the beleaguered British troops to regroup. The British force now numbered about 1,700, and they continued their march through Lexington and into Menotomy, which is today called Arlington. At the peak of the fighting, nearly 4,000 colonists were firing at them. Earl Percy said, "We retired under an incessant fire, which like a moving circle surrounded and followed us wherever we went." The fighting continued into Cambridge, and finally at sundown, the exhausted British troops reached the safety of Boston Harbor. They had marched 18 miles out to Concord, fought all along the return, and were exhausted. Before April 19th, Lord Sandwich had said, "Suppose the colonies abound in men, what does that signify? They are raw, undisciplined, cowardly men. The very sound of a cannon would carry them off as fast as their feet would carry them." But on the day after April 19th, Earl Percy wrote, "Many of them advanced within 10 yards to fire at men and other officers, though they were morally certain of being put to death themselves in an instant. I never believed, I confessed, that they would have attacked the king's troops. Whoever dares to look upon them as an irregular mob will find himself much mistaken. They have men amongst them who know very well what they are about." The total casualties for the British Redcoats were 273, and for the colonists, 95, killed, wounded, or missing. Of the colonial troops who came together on Battle Road, not all returned home that evening. Many stayed, and campfires sprung up in a ring around Boston. The siege of Boston had begun. In the following days, militia companies continued to arrive from places like Connecticut and New Hampshire. Altogether, 20,000 colonial militiamen answered the alarm.
Thank you.